Good evening, everybody. It is 6:30, February 26, 2026, the year of 2026, the 30th anniversary of Black History Month right here in Canada, and the 100th anniversary of Black History Month started by Carter G. Woodson in the United States of America. It's a special year 2026. This is the last of our four-part lecture series, Unnoticed Histories of Black Communities right here in Hamilton. I just want to say thanks to everybody that has been tuning in, everybody that has been emailing, and just like last week, we have two guests with us. We have Mara Benjamin, site supervisor at Griffin House and field coach in Ancaster, and we have Dante Hillen, high school students right here in Hamilton. And so we're going to hear from both of them. And I believe we are starting with Mara Benjamin. So Mara, can you just introduce yourself to folks that might not know you, and then you can start with your presentation.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this series. It's super exciting. So as Koja said, my name is Mara Benjamin. I'm the site supervisor at Griffin House National Historic Site and Fieldcote Memorial Park and Museum. They're about a 5-minute drive from each other in Ancaster, just off of Wilson Street. And I have the incredible privilege of kind of getting to represent and uplift my community through Griffin House. Just for a little bit of positionality, because I think that's really important to help understand my role at Griffin House. My father is from Jamaica. He moved here in the 1970s. My mother's family comes from England and Wales, and they've been in this part of the world for many generations. I am a settler on this land. I live in Brantford, not far from the Six Nations Reservation. So I tried to take all of those pieces of my identity and my position into the work that I do at Griffin House in creating a safe and welcoming space for all people to feel seen and represented, and to have their voices elevated and heard in that space. So we'll go to the next slide, maybe just to kind of show you where Griffin House is. So this is a historic map of Ancaster, but at the very bottom right, you can see the kind of like gray section there. That's what we consider Ancaster Village. So if you're driving down Wilson Street and you know where the Ancaster Public Library is, or Ancaster Old Town Hall, or the Barracks Inn, that's all in that little gray area. And then Griffin House is just about 5 minutes down the road, and it's currently located in the Dundas Valley Conservation Area. So if you're hiking around the Hermitage, you can hike down the Griffin Trail and explore Griffin House. We'll talk a little bit about how it's been under construction for so long, but you can still be on the grounds. It's still part of the conservation area. Same with Fieldcote. It's public land. You're allowed to be there. You're welcome to be there. We want you to be there. I know a lot of people maybe haven't been to Griffin House, or they just haven't heard about it in a really long time. That's because the site has been closed since 2020. It closed for major renovations, specifically foundation repairs. And then we found additional damage to some of the support beams in the house. It's kind of the nature of it being a 200-year-old wooden building in the woods. The same family lived there for 150 years, so it definitely got some wear and tear. So we are giving it the much needed attention and care that it needs now, so that it will remain for many generations to come. So we can go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about the Griffin family and kind of how they got here, why we talk about them, why they're important. So unfortunately, we don't have any photos of the first generation of Griffins. We start with the third generation. This is Ennie, or Enrils II. This is just the oldest direct descendant photo that we have. But Enrils and Priscilla Griffin, they were the first generation of Griffins to live in Canada. They crossed the border sometime around 1828. And Enrils was formerly enslaved in Virginia. He made his way north. We don't have a lot of details about how exactly he did that, but we do know from some of his signatures and writings that he could read and write, which was very unusual. It's a really vital part of the story that we tell, because when Enrolls was growing up as an enslaved person, it was not permitted for Black folks in the United States in the South to be taught to read and write. So we do believe that that contributed to his ability to make his way north and gain his freedom. We have a little bit of information that puts him in Cincinnati working under General Finley. And then we kind of lose track of him again. So he kind of comes and goes through the historic record that we've been able to find so far. And I should point out that none of this research is new by any means. Folks from the Black community, folks from Stuart Memorial Church, researchers, they have been working diligently to uncover pieces of Enrolls' story for years, pretty much since the house was identified as a Black history site in the 1980s. So all the work that I'm doing, I'm standing on the shoulders of others who have put in immense amounts of work before me. And I take that responsibility very seriously to maintain these stories and to continue to celebrate them, because this is kind of a story that counters the popular narrative of oppression and Black people didn't have any money and they were just enslaved. And while parts of that are true to Enrolls' story, it's also an incredible story of strength and resilience and the ability to build a better future for your family. So when Enrolls and his wife Priscilla came to Ancaster, they had worked and saved and toiled, and they were able to purchase a 50-acre farm for cash in Ancaster. They paid £125 at the time for this 50-acre farm. And some of those sale records indicate that it wasn't great land. It had transferred hands multiple times, but Enrolls was described as everyone as an incredible farmer. He was able to take this land that maybe wasn't the best. It's very hilly, it's rocky in that area, and he made a prosperous farm. If anyone's familiar with census records, kind of during the 1840 onward to the end of the 1800s, we have separate agricultural censuses, and those agricultural censuses show us what Enrolls was growing on the farm and just how incredibly prosperous it was. So we know that he had 15 acres under cultivation, he had 15 acres under pasture, he had cows and pigs and horses, and he had an apple orchard and a garden on the property as well. And that's from the 1851 census. He only had one son, so you can imagine he had to put in a lot of work to cultivate this farm, as did his son James, his wife Priscilla, and we know that there was a young man named George on the property as well, or sorry, Joseph. We don't know where he came from, we don't know his background, but it's very likely he would have been working with the family to farm that land. James goes on to have 8 children, and at one point, we've got James and his wife Euphemia, we've got 7 of their children, and Grandpa Enrolls all living in that tiny house that we saw on the first slide. There are only 2 bedrooms in that house and 2 rooms on the main floor. So really little, really tight quarters. They're probably spending a lot of time on the grounds since this is a booming farm at that time. And we know that by the 3rd generation, the Griffin family is also very heavily involved in the community. Kojo did a great job touching on this in the first lecture. If you haven't seen that yet, go check it out for sure after today. But we know that Enrolls was super involved in the community. He was a man of prominence, not only agriculturally, but politically and socially. We know that the Griffins had a tight relationship with the Leith family. So that was a very wealthy white family that lived at the Hermitage, which is, if you're hiking the Dundas Valley, there's these beautiful stone ruins. That was the Hermitage. We have stories of the Leith daughters would go out to Toronto for a fun day and they'd say, all right, we can fit 2 boys in our car, like send some of the Griffins, they'll come for a little trip with us. And we know the Griffin boys often helped out at the Leith farm. They were helping with the horses and the carriages. So that we know that they're well connected in the community at that time, which of course is how you succeed in this early time and in this early community. You have to rely on your neighbors to support each other. And it's a harsh environment. It's very cold, it's very snowy. You're in the woods. You need that community. And that reigns true today too, of course. So, kind of as we tell the story of the Griffin family at Griffin House, and during its closure, we tell that story at Fieldcote. We go to the third generation where we've got this lovely picture of Ennie Jr. in his like, really cool duster and hat. That's generally our staff and the kids' favorite picture. And we have descriptions of what the family looked like too. After the house was sold to the Hamilton Conservation Authority around 1989. This was after the last generation of Griffins passed away. Gary Costello passed away in 1988. There were interviews done of neighbors, and the interviews collect information on who the Griffins were and what they were like and what they looked like. So we have these beautiful recollections of Ennie sitting on the back porch on a rocking chair with his pipe, watching the children play, and that he would call square dances in town, but he would never sing. He would never be seen singing. So I think those stories are really cool because they take this historic photo and these people that we learn about in history books and in museums, and they make them real. This isn't just a photo of a man. This was a real man with a family and relationships and quirks. And I think that makes the story so much richer. Then we go to the next generation. This is Enrel's niece. Her name was Hazel, and she's on the far left of that photo. And she married a man named Frank Costello. And this is them at their son Bernard's wedding. And something that we like to talk about this photo that's really interesting is neighbors describe that Hazel wore really pale makeup on her face. And you can see in this photo, her face and her hands are a different complexion. Now, we don't have any accounts from Hazel herself. We only have the few stories from neighbors and community members that knew her, but she's also growing up in a time where it is safer not to be Black in parts of Hamilton. Racism is on the rise at this time, and maybe she's doing her best to move through the world safely. Maybe she is intentionally kind of lightening her complexion to blend in with her Italian husband and her European in-laws. We'll never know for sure, but as a mixed race person myself, I find this kind of story really fascinating of, how do we show up in the world with mixed ancestry? How do we claim our heritage and celebrate it, while also recognizing the privilege that is awarded to those with lighter skin? So it's a really complex issue that we bring up a little bit when visitors come to Fieldcote and talk to us about Griffin House history. And it's something that a lot of folks never have to think about. So it's kind of an interesting conversation point. And we all get to learn something in those conversations, which is very special. We'll go to the next slide. And the next slide is just more family photos. We can see this is, again, Ennie in the middle and his mom, Euphemia, who came from Scotland. And then this is Ennie's nieces. So this is Maud, Bertha, and Euphemia. And they were very white passing, we'll say, or white presenting. It's this point in the Griffin history that they stopped talking about their Black ancestry. And there are still some members of the family that neighbors are kind of whispering that, they appear to be maybe part Black, but it's not widely talked about anymore. And by the time we get to the last generation of Griffins, Gary, who passed away in the house in 1988, it's not widely known at all that the family has Black ancestry, to the point that when the Conservation Authority purchased the house, they didn't know whether they would even keep it because there was nothing really, really clear tying it to important history in the area yet. And that's where we get into the next slide. And what you're going to see in the next slide is a wall in Griffin House. So if you were to walk into the house and go toward the cellar doors, on either side of the cellar stairs, there are newspapers and images and magazine pages and things like that that are still pasted on the wood today. And this was a really common practice through the 1800s. And it was a way to kind of add insulation to your house. because generally these are wooden houses. We don't have modern like plexiglass insulation, obviously. You have things like horsehair and wool and paper. But what's interesting about this piece is that it was pasted quite prominently on top of other newspaper clippings. And this is not a newspaper clipping or a scrap of sheet music like some of the other pieces we see. This is actually a lithograph or a print of a painting by Eastman Johnson called Negro Life in the South. And if we go to the next slide, you can see what that painting looked like originally. Now, Gary was not widely known to have Black ancestry. He didn't go around town talking about it. In fact, he didn't even live up at Griffin House for the last few years of his life. He spent a lot of that time downtown Hamilton. So finding this lithograph without other clear indication that this was a Black family, it led to a little bit more exploration of the house. And that's how that link to Enrolls was found. And there was a whole generation of incredible researchers and architects and archaeologists who put in years of work to uncover that history. And if anyone is up at Field Coat, we do have an entire reference library, and half of that room is dedicated to Griffin House and to some of those research papers and archaeological reports. So if you ever want to learn like the nitty gritty of like what exactly did they find in that 1991 archaeological excavation, you come see me. I'll give you the whole list. We have pictures and everything. But this lithograph is kind of celebrated as one of the keys of uncovering the story and saving Griffin House. And it was many years later that the curator of Field Coat and Griffin House advocated with the community for getting a National Historic Site designation for Griffin House. And it's partly because of that that we know Griffin House will survive for generations to come. And let me
This,
just.
we'll go to your
Mhm.
next slide. I've always, and I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but I find this picture very fascinating.
Yes.
It reminds me of Marvin Gaye's album cover for oh, what's that song called? I Want You. It has that like aesthetic and the colors, and yeah, I every time I see I see this, it just excites me a lot. Anyway,
Mhm.
sorry for.
No, no, that's such a good point. And when we pull out this print, which we often do for things like March break and Family Day, whenever we know we're going to have a high traffic day at Field Coat, we like to bring out pictures from Griffin House and pieces from our education collection so that people can really learn about Griffin House even when it's closed. And what we try to focus on in this print is the joy, right? Is the Black excellence, the joy, the mixing of colors. We've got white women coming through the fence on one side. We've got, auntie with the little one dancing as uncle plays the banjo. It just exudes joy. And that's what we try to focus on
Mhm,
because we know we have to talk about the rougher parts of Black history. That's something we include in our educational programming for students first grade to eighth grade. We know we have to talk about slavery and racism and colonization, but that's not where our story ends. And we never want to leave visitors or students with the impression that that's where our story ends. We want to end with joy. We want to end with a bright future. We want to end with conversations of what does a bright Black future look like and how are you going to be part of it? So this print plays such an amazing role in that conversation. And as I was telling Kojo just before the meeting started, um, we got a little bit of an update on Griffin House. I got to meet with the capital projects team last week. So we do know that the grounds are going to reopen next year as planned. That hasn't changed. There were a few delays just due to some additional structural concerns found in the house. But it is important to note also that all of the work being done at Griffin House, it is covered by a grant. So that's not like your taxpayer dollars going towards this extended construction. I know that's a question that a lot of people have, and it's while it delays the work on the physical site, it's not going to delay our reopening of the grounds. So if anyone is, going to come join us for Emancipation Day this year and again next year, fingers crossed we'll be able to spend some time celebrating on the grounds next year.
Hmm. And
And I
and
know
do you have a month, or is just next year?
we just know that we can't access the site easily in the wintertime
Okay.
because it gets so snowy and the driveway is
Hmm.
quite steep.
Hmm.
So while all of the exterior work is going to be finished this spring or summer, depending on delays, it's very likely that we won't be able to reopen the grounds officially before the snowfall this year. So it'll be as soon as we can safely get on the grounds next year. I'm really hoping we can do something. Um, but Griffin House is a very entwined site. So while I may have hopes and dreams for the site, mine is not the only voice that matters there. So we work directly with these lovely people in the photo,
Hmm.
as well as many others. We have an advisory committee at Griffin House. We have many community members that are deeply invested in the site, and we have Enrol's direct descendants that we work with as well. One of his granddaughters is named Jane, and she has been absolutely instrumental in sharing histories of the Griffin family with us, and giving us entire binders and saying, here, just take whatever information you want and like photocopy it. And she's been doing this research since 1996, which is as long as I've been alive. So I'm very, very grateful to Jane and to the many other descendants and scholars that are willing to chat with me and my team and share their thoughts and their ideas and their dreams for the site. Because at the core of everything we do at Griffin House, we want it to be informed by the community. And I think when Mo was talking about it last week with Kojo and Aaron, that point was made really clearly that like you can't have these big wigs in a tower making all these decisions on behalf of a community. It has to be the voices of the community involved in the house.
Hmm.
um, so if I have not already emailed you and bugged you to please come and talk to me and tell me all your hopes and dreams and thoughts, and you want to get involved with Griffin House, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Kojo has all of my contact information. You can always just pop up to Field Code. I'm there almost every single day. And I get so excited to get to talk to the community and bring those ideas back to the interpretive planning and construction teams, and try to bring real life to the site, try to bring the perspectives and the stories of our community to the site, because I think that makes it so much richer.
Thank you very much. So everybody that's tuning in, you heard it first here. Griffin House next year. We'll see you at the party.
Yes, yes. We'll see
And
you this year too. It'll just be at Field Code.
yeah. One thing I wanted to say before I hand it over to Dante, I think I know some of the folks in this photo. So I'm thinking Maxine Carter on
Yes,
the right. And I mentioned Maxine, I think in the second in
you
the
did.
second
Yeah.
lecture series. So like you're seeing all the main contributions of everybody from the black community, making Hamilton a thriving city for everyone. So I wanted to point that out. And are you okay sharing the names of others? I know some of them. I want you to name them so that I'm not taking your thunder away.
So actually, the group was formed before I even had the privilege of joining Griffin House. So I've actually not met two of the people in this photo,
Mm,
but I do still work very closely with Maxine, with Julia, with Deborah, and several others who kind of join on this advisory committee. And this is all volunteering. They're doing
mhm,
this out of the kindness of their heart, which I so deeply appreciate. And I hope that I get the opportunity to meet more invested community members and hear their stories and help them tell their own stories at Griffin House.
mhm. Yeah, thank you, Mara. This is, yeah, you're doing some awesome work. And also you know, just before we gone on, and I really want to I think it's important for us to name some of the things we do in community. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Mara for their work, especially around Emancipation Day celebrations at the city of Hamilton. When we look back into the history, Hamilton has always celebrated Emancipation Day, and so for it to come back so that um, various Black communities and the general public at large can really learn about Emancipation Day, what it means, how we can continue that essence of emancipation in this city is important. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you very much for all the work that you are doing at the city, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It's such a privilege and a pleasure to be able to celebrate with my community. Because there have been years where I'm just on my balcony with a sparkler on Emancipation Day. Because I grew up in a Dutch community, no one else was celebrating Emancipation
Mhm,
Day. So to get to do that for my job now, to get to throw a huge party and work with community partners like Lucky Sticks from Tune In Foundation, to
mhm.
have music and food trucks and games and talk about history and joy. Like what a wild dream that I get to live, and it's incredible.
Yeah, and I think this year has been um, a very, as I said at the top, 30 years of celebrating Black History Month. Where folks were celebrated it before and have always, but I think even with the HSR bus, where we
Mhm.
had Stilo. Stilo was commissioned to do some
Yeah.
artwork, and the artwork eventually happened to be Quincy um, on the bus. And I think today the HSR released a video of Quincy talking about how it's also surreal for her to see that as somebody that was born and raised in Hamilton, taking the bus to school, elementary school, high school, college, doing all the things in Hamilton, and now during Black History Month, there's an artwork of her on a bus that's traveling all over the city is also surreal for her. So I think when we're talking about Black History Month, these are some of the things that we're alluding to. And one last thing that I'll say before I hand it over to Dante, because you mentioned this about the Griffin family marrying Italian folks. And I always say this. I think, we have to understand that Black History Month is Canadian history, is Hamilton history, right? And this is exactly the reason why we celebrate it. So when folks are like, "Why are we celebrating Black History Month? Is this? Is that?" It's like we're telling the stories of the histories of people here, right? The interconnected story. So just wanted to, just to point that out a little bit because sometimes I get perturbed when we're asked why we're celebrating Black History Month. Anyway, so Mara, you're still staying. Hang tight. Dante, we have Dante, Helen. We don't even know where to start. His list of accomplishments is so long. So Dante, why don't you give a little introduction, and then you can give your message to the people that are watching. And I see that before you go, I see last time I was asking folks where they are watching from, and I think it's become a tradition because all of a sudden there were people like, let me see here. Folks are like, North End. Anybody from the North End, please, Lower East Hamilton, Kirkendall, Randall. What else do we have here? Homeside, Eagle Place, Brantford. We got some Brantford folks here. Yeah, so there you go. If there are others that want to share where they are, please do so. Okay, Mr. Dante, it's all yours.
Good evening, everybody. It's an absolute honor to be joining you tonight. Thank you so much, Mara, for your presentation. I'm feeling so inspired and empowered to speak up today. So my name is Dante Hillen. I am 17 years old, and I am from the Gorley Park neighborhood. So here in beautiful Ward 8 here in Hamilton, Ontario. West Mountain, hey,
Yes,
represent.
West
I see that in the chat. Gotta
Mountain.
represent.
Yeah, West Mountain folks.
So currently, I'm in grade 12 at Sherwood Secondary School. I am finishing my second semester there. I'm heading off to post-secondary. Still deciding on where I want to go, but you know, keeping my options open, something in the realm of law and advocacy, which you'll get to hear a lot more about my passion through when we're speaking today. So currently, I am serving my second term as the Sagawanagaladads, so the Indigenous Student Trustee of the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board. In there, I share the perspective of an Afro-Indigenous youth. So obviously exploring the intersections of African but also Indigenous roots. My Indigenous roots coming from Long Lake 58 First Nation up in Northern Ontario, but obviously working here in Hamilton, close to the Six Nations Reserve, working with Mohawk, but also Anishinaabe to really foster inclusivity among Indigenous peoples. Part of that work, I was elected by my peers of Indigenous student trustees to serve as the chair of the Indigenous Student Trustee Council of the Ontario Student Trustees Association. So, in that role, I sit at decision making tables, not only at the board level, locally in Hamilton, but also provincially through various student trustee and trustee associations. So I also sit on the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit Trustee Caucus and the Black Trustee Caucus of the Ontario Public School Boards Association, which are all networks that I've tapped into in my work with the school board. I've been working in advocacy at a pretty young age from grade 6. I really had an understanding, and I think that's where I felt empowered to take the call to civic action because I feel that in order for us to engage in the future and to really bridge the work, because I think a theme that's reoccurring constantly nowadays with youth is, that we are the future and that we are the change. But in order to get to that future, we need to really understand that we're not only the leaders of tomorrow, but we're the leaders of today, and that we're going to work with the leaders that have come before us and the leaders that are in this space to then get to tomorrow. Because the reality is, we aren't going to get to tomorrow if we don't work today to ensure that tomorrow is going to come. So I think that's where I really fit into the piece. Kind of sharing perspective on all the decision making tables that I sit on because I engage with a lot of policymakers and politicians who share diverse perspectives across political spectrum, but also across beliefs and lived experiences. And I'm really here today to talk about Black youth futures here in Hamilton. So really, what that looks like, where we're growing, but also what work we still have to do. Because I think it's equally as important to recognize, where we are and where we stand currently, all the triumphs, but also to understand, what we can we improve on. Because fostering that nature of improvement and really striving to be better, I think we're all collectively going to work towards a Hamilton that we are hopeful but also envision. So I guess a great place to start would be to talk about what I do as an Indigenous student trustee. So as Indigenous student trustee, I raise student voice at the board table at HWDSP. And I'll say stepping into that space has been a different interesting shift on my perspective. I feel kind of taking in the duality of being a student, but also advocating for the very policy and the changes that affect me in the very classrooms, in the hallways, that I learn every single day. It has definitely opened my eye up and has really allowed me to engage in this work, not only with confidence, but also understanding that we have a future that we need to work towards, and that us as youth, Black youth specifically, are a part of the equation and a part of the formula. And part of my goal is participating in local democracy and participating in roles like Indigenous Student Trustee, not only to guarantee, but also show autonomy, but also the right to self govern and understand that we know our communities best. So we need voices and representation from our communities. And I think that allows me opportunities not only to listen to what the Indigenous and Black students of the Hamilton, well, really all students of the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board have to say, it's that I have the opportunity to synthesize, analyze it, but really advocate for it at a board level. So not only do I work within the city municipally, I also work provincially through various organizations, like I previously mentioned, the Ontario Student Trustees Association. It is a collective of Indigenous student trustees and representatives across this province in educational advocacy. We are a unique pipeline of student leaders across the province, student trustees. We have ties from here in Ontario, but I think we've also expanded to Vancouver now, and understanding that we embrace public education and the values. We work to really just improve school environments and ensure that equality, equity is centered in all classroom discussions through policy, but also through experience. And so on there, I have the opportunity to engage with other student trustees and student leaders across this province. Part of my role of Indigenous Student Trustee Council is chairing the Indigenous Student Trustee Council. So we're a group of about, I believe, 13 student trustees from across Catholic and public education. So really students like myself who serve the exact same role, but in their communities. And we come together. Not only do we discuss what's going on in our communities, what we're noticing, but also what we feel and we identify as needs for students. And this shows that we can kind of engage in these conversations locally, but also on a provincial level, on a larger scale level, because we know that the decisions made at Queen's Park on Parliament Hill are boiling down in our communities, but also there are decisions being made right here, down at City Hall. And I think it's just realizing the worth that us as youth have, us as members of communities, to then speak up and feel empowered and be proud of who we are. And I think really where I serve my role within all of this is to ensure that equity isn't just a word in policy, but it's really reflected in our decisions that are impacting real students in real classrooms. These aren't just numbers and statistics, but these are students, these are our lives. And we need to really hear and understand what's going on. And that's what I really choose to carry in my work is honesty and authenticity. I think we as us as youth are disallowed opportunities and spaces where the decisions are affecting us direly and we need the platform to speak. And I think, for example, here tonight, Kojo provides such an amazing platform for youth like myself to speak up because we need to hear the experiences, whether they may be negative or positive, to ensure that we are moving forward and we're listening to perspectives. We need to listen to all perspectives at the table and also honor that we need a seat at this table. And this is examples of Black joy and Black excellence because we're celebrating here during this Black History Month, but it's not restricted to Black History Month and to February that we celebrate and we listen to stories. And that's kind of why I'm also here today, is to really empower that and show that we're working 365 days a year. We're the students, we're the youth of our communities, and we know what's best going on. So now I want to transition more to Black Youth Futures, specifically, as Kojo mentioned earlier on, around the 30th anniversary of Black History here in Canada and celebrations that have been going on. Specifically, I want to talk about the John C. Holland, the awards, and all that has been going on with that. So, a powerful way that I understand Black Youth Futures in Hamilton is through spaces like the John C. Holland Awards. This year, I am very deeply humbled and honored to have received the Sankofa Pearl Scholarship, the Sankofa Pearl Bursary, and the Empower Pillar Award. These are honors.
Yo, where are those in the chat? We need like some congratulations, Dante. Keep it up, Dante. Come on, folks in the chat. Let's hear it up. Let's hear it for Dante.
I appreciate
Keep
it.
going,
The
Dante.
support means so much. And I think one thing that I really want to acknowledge is that this work for me isn't in the dollar amount or the compensation, that the compensation really comes in community and that our voices are being heard and amplified. So the value that I see in roles that people see as thankless is that my voice is being heard, because my voice isn't only my opinions and what I've learned, but it's a culmination of what I've heard of all the Black excellent leaders, all the excellent leaders that have chosen to step up and have spoken up. So I think just speaking about that, really that night wasn't just about awards, but it was about celebrating the Black excellence, the resilience, and the leadership. And I think it really did remind me that Black youth futures are already here. They're brilliant, they're determined, and they're shaping the city. And I think right now, I actually want to share the acceptance speech that I had the opportunity to share, because I feel that it grounds us in the work, but it also shows the recognition and the pieces that work behind it. So this is what I had shared on the night of. I am truly honored to accept the John C. Holland Sankofa Scholarship Award. I want to begin by sincerely thanking the Hamilton Black History Council for hosting events like this. Spaces that don't just celebrate achievement in Black excellence, but cultivate it. Your commitment to uplifting Black voice and investing in our futures creates pathways that many of us are walking today with pride and with purpose. To all the outstanding nominees and their families, friends, and people who support them, I want to congratulate you on all of your accomplishments. As an Afro Indigenous person, this recognition holds deep meaning for me. I carry the strength of my ancestors, resilience, brilliance, and community in everything that I do. The intersectionality of my identity is not just something that I represent. It is something that guides me. It reminds me that my success is never individual, it is collective, including many of you who are here tonight in this space. I commit to carrying on the important work of generations before me and to supporting the generations after me in education, workplaces, and in community. To my family, thank you for your constant support, your sacrifices, and your belief in me, especially as I try new things. You are my foundation. This scholarship is a reminder to continue striving, continue serving, and continue honoring where I come from and those around me who lift me up. On this 30th anniversary, may we learn from one another to continue to show up and celebrate Black excellence every day. Miigwech. So that's the opportunity that I had to share on the night. I feel that um, recognizing all the work that's gone into it, the hard work, but also, the recognition and the choices that were made to recognize myself for an honor like this. I think it's just a culminating of not only my experiences once again, but the voices and the stories. And I also think of the many stories of students who have gone untold and have not had the opportunity to step up on spaces like those. So I think really sharing that I am so beyond grateful to receiving that was honestly like just mind blowing. And I know that this isn't the end of it. This is only the beginning of something and a movement. And we're going to continue moving forward and, for the betterment of the city, for the betterment of our communities. And, we want to strive and we want to celebrate our resilience and all the contributions and feel joy. I guess the last time that I'd really spoken on a podcast for Kojo was about a couple years ago now on Kojo's Corner. And funny enough with this, I think I was just turning 16 that time.
It's
It's
been
been
that
that
long.
long. And so I'll be celebrating my 18th birthday in a couple months, and I'm now at the age where I'm ready to vote. And we know that municipal election is coming soon. So I actually kind of want to share a message and a bit of a challenge to other Black youth in this city, to other youth in Hamilton. You need to take that opportunity seriously. Civic engagement is power. Voting is one step, but I want to say if you're feeling bold, get involved. Join councils, advisory groups, campaigns, or boards. We know that these opportunities don't only come around during elections, but that they're amplified during election periods, and now is the time to get involved. I think we're in a really good space in reflecting not only um, what the political landscape is looking like in municipal politics in this city, but reflecting on what's missing, what is currently there, but also understanding that we have a call to action in civic engagement and in civic power. And I will say that representation doesn't happen by accident, and it happens when we step forward. So take that time to step forward. I don't know how much time I have left, but I think I want to transition now to what's going on specifically in our spaces. And I want to say that one of the most exciting projects that I'm seeing growing across Hamilton is the rise of Black student associations in our schools. And this isn't only in high schools, but now even at the elementary level. And in fact, my own elementary school actually just started a BSA just this past year. I'm just to think of all the work that had gone into that and all those years that have passed, reflecting on my time at that school and being a proud alum and seeing all the movement that has gone in that environment. It just means so much and it's so moving. And I actually say that matters when students see themselves reflected, but also affirmed early as elementary school. I think it really does guide and change confidence, belonging, but also long term outcomes. Another key initiative that I wanted to speak about that I personally connect with regularly is the Black Graduation Coach program in our high school. I'm very fortunate at Sherwood to access the support of Mr. Meeks, and I want to give a big shout out to him. He's a life changer in our school system, and these are mentors and leaders who are actively supporting Black students academically, socially, but also emotionally. And they're helping us navigate pathways to graduation and beyond. What's so powerful and impactful is that their work and their impact extends beyond just graduating students, but it's that they shift our school culture. Even today, I believe there was a Sherwood Showdown basketball tournament that it united the entire school community of Sherwood, and we had the chance to reflect and really hear stories. And I know like there's been a few things shared under his guidance on the announcements about Black History Month, and this shows how we're not only supporting graduating students, but we're supporting our school culture. And I would love to see this program expanded to every high school in this city through the three boards. Even just last night, I had the opportunity to sit at a People for Education panel alongside the Ashley Montague from Black owned Hammond. And it was so encouraging to see how educators are actively working to support Black students. We do know that we have a long way to go, but when student voice is consistently at the table, we can ensure that policies and classroom practices actually reflect lived experience. I mean, if you're not familiar with the work that she does, I would invite you to, get to know her and understand the work that she was doing. It was just so inspiring to be able to share the stage with her last night at the library, and I reflect on that even as it was just last night, kind of understanding that she was an educator in that space, and she spoke about her time as a Black graduation coach, as an educator, and how she was shifting the community. On one thing, I'm also really big on policy and making it more inclusive and accessible to students. So in October of 2022, HWDSB approved its anti-Black racism strategy um, alongside an overarching human rights policy. These policies had aimed to identify, address, and prevent anti-Black racism in our schools. And one thing that they did use was a targeted universalism approach, which meant that they wanted to remove systemic barriers, which specifically impacted Black students, and while also simultaneously improving the conditions for everyone. And that is what equity in action looks like, not only through policy, but the stories that we're hearing. And I want to say, as I apply to post secondary and move through that, I know that this work doesn't stop here. One area that I'm especially focused on is data, particularly around suspensions and expulsions. We know that Black and Indigenous students are disproportionately represented, and data is telling us how we're doing, but it also tells us how to hold these very systems accountable. And I see this work through community organizations like HCCI, Park, and even ACA, because data becomes a tool for collective support and progress. And these are community organizations that unite people that are doing the work. They are doing the work and they are envisioning what's next. And I always say it's not about changing minds, but it's about making that positive change.
Positive change.
That's right. And I shared that very deeply, and I've reflected on that, and that's been a core principle of my work since I first shared that, reflected on that, and refined that, first on the Kojo's Corner. And so just to close it off, I want to say that Black futures in Hamilton are powerful and ever so growing. From our BSAs to our policy reform to our mentorship programs, we're building something meaningful. And we see that even to the very space that I'm speaking at today, that we're speaking at today. And we know that progress requires participation. So that's whether through voting, organizing, mentoring, or policy making, there is space for you at the table. And I plan to continuing my part and doing my part as a youth, as a black youth in this city. And I will always commit and answer the call to civic action. Thank you.
Man, I don't. The guy just dropped the mic. I don't know if I can pick up the mic. It's too hot. Man. So thank you, Dante. I know you were focused on your presentation, but I think in the chat, lots of folks are congratulating you. Um,
Oh, thank you so
yeah,
much for the
there
support,
was
everybody. It means a lot. It
yeah.
means the world to me. Thank you.
I'm going to show some of them. Just congratulations, amazing
Thank
work.
you.
Congratulations, Dante. We're
Thank you
proud
so
of
much.
you.
Means the
Uh,
world to me.
yeah, heck yeah, congratulations. Well
Thank
deserved.
you.
We have Eso Dante. It's
Thank
amazing to see you shine and support others too. This is I'm honored to hear and learn from you, Dante. Massive congratulations! What a beautiful and powerful speech.
you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. I'm gonna leave this one up. They said, yeah, you dropped the mic,
Mic
man.
drop.
You dropped the mic.
Hey, we're
Um,
picking it back up. That's true,
eh,
though. We're picking it
eh,
back up.
yeah, and then we have someone say, yeah, the black graduate, let's maintain it and expand it.
Here,
I
here.
think,
That's so true.
while you were giving your speech, I'm struck by the connections. At least that's how I see it. You situated the John C. Holland Awards. The John C. Holland Awards was started as a community intervention by Evelyn Murray, Marlene Thomas, to remember Reverend John C. Holland and all the great work that he did. I spoke about it in the second lecture. If you didn't tune in or go watch it, and you know now in 2026, you have youth like yourself that are continuing that legacy. We have the Hamilton Black History Council. Shout outs to all the executive
That's right.
members that are also really thinking about how to support youth. You spoke about black grad coaches. You mentioned Ashley Montague. I mean, even she's done so much for Hamilton, for students. She was a grad coach within the Catholic system, and now supporting black entrepreneurs and how to connect with funding, how to work through their business plans, all of that. And so I think what your presentation, or what both of you actually, both of you are giving us a presentation of the black history we are talking about. It's not a relic, it is a living thing that we are all trying to do. We are all trying to preserve and grow and nurture. Emancipation Day celebrations that go back to a time where you know uh, uh, people like, someone said they were from Kirkendall, where people like Kirkendall and Hamilton had slaves, right? And now a city that is saying that, look, we need to remember what emancipation is about. How are young people now carrying that torch of emancipation forward? Not only for black communities, but for everyone in general, which is what you are also speaking to. So that was I mean, I don't know how to even follow up that speech. That speech. So maybe I'll just end with this. I think we have about 5 minutes or so. I'll just end with a question to both of you. Um, what keeps you hopeful? What brings you joy as we move ahead for the rest of the year? So we'll start with Mara and then we'll end with Dante.
I mean, seeing youth like Dante gives me hope, brings me joy. Like I said, I grew up in a little Dutch community with the Washington Purser boys, where my family and their family were the
Oh,
only people of color at our school, basically through high school. And to see now Black youth voices amplified, to see them have a seat at the table and be able to help shape their own futures. I think often of the kind of quote, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. Like if my ancestors on that plantation in Seville in Jamaica could see me now and could see Dante and could see all these incredible youth who are doing the work to preserve those legacies, like it would be just mind-boggling for them. And for me too, to think I'm going to raise kids in this world that are going to have role models that they can look up to, like Ashley and Dante and Inara and all these people who are putting in the work. Like that gives me hope. That is such a bright future. And not to say we're perfect, we have a long way to go. The city of Hamilton has a long way to go as an institution, but I think we're on the right track at least.
thank you, Dante.
To say that was so beautifully said, and I think like also what really moves me, I mean, as a youth specifically, is seeing leaders like Kojo and Mara making space for youth to speak up and youth like myself to share my perspectives. I think oftentimes we have a hesitancy to come and want to speak up. There's a lot of doubt in younger people that we simply don't have the experience and we simply aren't ready to have these discussions. And what makes me the most hopeful is that we have youth who are ready to resist and who are ready to challenge that, ones who feel unrest in seeing the status quo honored and seeing the status quo, the way that it's been, and it's going to continue being that way. I think tradition obviously is very important, and following traditions and how things have been plays a crucial role in how we're moving, and obviously it's shaped how we've gotten here and laid the foundation. But in certain contexts, when we ride the status quo and we don't challenge, when we see inequalities happen, we allow for harm and harmful opportunities to kind of break through the cracks. And this is where we are falling through the gaps. And it just makes me so hopeful and determined to continue this work, but also to engage more youth, really to engage anybody who's willing to get into this work, is seeing that we have people who, see unrest in the status quo, who seek mentorship and who are looking to learn, but also lead. They aren't afraid to ask questions, and you know they're stepping out of their shell and they're becoming comfortable. They're embracing community and their loved ones, and they're also expanding their networks. So really just seeing that there's space for me to share today, and that while there might not be certain spaces where I can go in and speak on context and speak on conversations like this, that I've been given the tools and the opportunities to represent and step into those spaces to then allow them to carry these conversations forward, which means so much to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, thank you, Dante. Thank you, Mara. Keep on doing the work you're doing. I also want to say a big, 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 big thank you to everybody that has tuned in. I really, you don't know how much I appreciate. Every Thursday, 6:30. Everybody is here, and people have been engaging. I saw we were getting through the lecture series, and people were like, "Yeah, I'm from Dundas, Waterdown, downtown, East End," and this shows that, yeah, people want to learn about the unnoticed histories of Black communities right here in Hamilton. I want to thank my supervisor, Dr. Emil Joseph. He's always saying, you gotta just share the information and share the information with people and do it with people. And so I'm glad to have both of you on here as guests. And a big shout out to Mo and Aaron from the previous week. Um, I know that I like switching things up a lot. I know initially people thought it was the whole 4 weeks was going to look like week 1 and 2, and I'm sure there were some people that are like, yeah, this is heavy stuff, but I'll still come in. And then we switch it up, and they're like, "Whoa, okay, is this Black History?" Yes. So, I think what were we? Somebody's asking. I mean, I see the chat. Sometimes people don't see it. Somebody's asking, what will we do next next Thursday? You can rewatch. You can rewatch it. No, in all seriousness, I did suggest some books in the slides from the slides from week 1 and 2. So what will you do next Thursday? You can head to King West Books. I know they have some of those books on the shelves like now. So you can head to King West Books, purchase some of those books, and then every Thursday in March you can read a chapter from a chapter from those books. So there we go. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all of you folks are saying great sessions. Thanks, Kojo. Thanks, Mara. Thanks, Dante. And yes, so all of these sessions are also on YouTube, so you can share them with people. No, you don't need to email me to come and give a presentation. You just show the video. All right. Thank you all. We appreciate Dante, Mara. Thank you very much. And again, final news. 2027 Griffin House is going to be open. So keep an eye out
Yes,
for the dates, and you can reach out to Mara at any time for all matters of Griffin House, Field Court, and Emancipation Day. Are you starting a YouTube book? Man, well, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. But everybody, I appreciate you. Thank you. Good night. Have a good
right.
Thursday.